Firefighting is an action-oriented emergency business, and it takes great skill and courage to be a good firefighter. We're at our best when the chips are down, at times of crisis. We're who the public calls for every conceivable emergency. You're the one people trust to set things right, when life quite literally becomes a living hell. Yet that simple reality, while a badge of honor and source of great pride, can hold within it the potential for our worst undoing. How many times have you entered a burning building without knowing what inherent dangers that building held for you? How many times have you made an interior attack on a fire building whose failure to meet basic code requirements placed you or other firefighters in jeopardy? How is it that too often, in too many fire department cultures, basic pre-knowledge of critical building information is an afterthought, or the gathering of it an annoying detail? How is it that we so readily engage the enemy on unknown battlefields? Before many of your heroic brother and sister firefighters got to answer these questions, it was too late.
Our department has changed its organizational mindset and philosophy toward fire prevention versus fire response under the concept of prevention before response. And basically, what we're doing here is being proactive versus being reactive and getting out into the community, distributing fire safety and fire prevention information and messages.
Many things need to occur relating to fire prevention and protection to ensure that everyone goes home. They include the creation of tactical pre-incident plans that connect critical building information with standard operating procedures, firefighters advocating for and participating in pre-incident inspections, firefighters understanding the importance of passive and active fire protection systems and their effect on manual firefighting operations and life safety, firefighter promotion of building codes that impact life safety, including their own safety, firefighters adopting a team approach to fire prevention, firefighters serving as grassroots advocates for residential sprinkler systems, and firefighters becoming more involved in community outreach programs.
The Community Outreach Program in Montgomery County is just that. It's an opportunity for fire rescue in Montgomery County to reach out to the community, and then in turn for the community to learn more and understand more about us. If we can educate the public and get them engaged in their own safety and allow them to participate in their own safety, that then translates into fewer 911 calls.
We have to understand that fire prevention is more than just the public education feature. Fire prevention involves engineering, education, and enforcement. Well, that's where we need to incorporate the codes enforcement, the companies in the field. It's all a complete package that we need to all be involved in, from the firefighter in the street all the way to the fire chief. We have to have an understanding of the whole system. Fire protection awareness is a skill level for firefighters that's going to ensure a safer community, that's going to ensure a safer firefighter. If the firefighter's understanding of the building, of the pre-event, of the existing model, if you will, the fact that we need early detection, which is smoke alarms. We need early fire suppression, which is fire sprinkler systems. We need engineered features into the building, such as compartmentalization, fire doors, smoke removal systems. If the firefighter understands those things, they'll better react when the emergency occurs. And that's when we have to be on top of our game. Pre-incident planning is important to the fire company, those emergency responders in the field, because we know the building beforehand. Too often we use pre-incident planning as a checklist, that it's an assignment, it's not fun, it's not important. We don't see the benefits of it, and that's because we're not talking shop when we're in the field. Instead of just talking about what's the roof made of, what type of system is this, we need to be talking, how do we get a hole in this roof? How do we get the smoke out of this building? How do we get a hand line to the 3rd floor? How do we use a standpipe? Those are things that we need to talk about before the fire. That's part of pre-incident planning that's probably been missing. Too often we check the box. Too often we take a piece of paper to the field, we fill out the needed information, and we don't talk about the fire. If we're not talking about it, if we're not in the field looking at it, if we're not brainstorming and talking shop in the field, then we're going to be embarrassed. Someday we'll be embarrassed, whether it's on a fire alarm that we don't know how the building features work, or whether, as Francis Brannigan said, we didn't know the building, and the result's the loss of a firefighter's life, then we have some responsibility. And we have responsibility every day to be in the field. We need to be out in our districts. We need to know the building. We need to know our districts, because that's fighting the fire before the fire.
Understanding the buildings and structures in our communities offer us a positive foundation from which fire protection is built.
When you look at your first due area, think of it as a company officer. Do you know the structures in your first due area? Do you know the managers in the complex structures in your first due area? Who's the school principal? Who was the last time you talked to the school principal? Who's the cops that work your beat, who may be aware of problems that are occurring way before you are? If you've got a rest home, who's the manager in the rest home? Who are the people on duty? Who is the safety professional for those facilities? Where are the fire protection systems located? And if you don't know that, I give that you're not doing your job, that you have not put the effort in to being the professional that we all claim to be.
Any fire service professional should be focused on pre-fire planning, looking at things that's going to present a danger where they can say, you know, what happens if I'm in that situation? Take, for instance, they're off duty. They're going shopping at a store and they see fire exits blocked. Does a firefighter walk past that? Not a true firefighter. They're going to get management and say, I'm off duty, but that's the wrong thing to do. And if you can do that while you're off duty, you're going to have a much safer company while you're on duty.
Cooperation is what makes fire protection work. It involves bringing together many elements of both the fire service and other entities to make a complete safety package.
The Fire Prevention Bureau and the suppression forces interact hand in hand. The professionals from the Fire Prevention Bureau, upon their duties when they're out in their respective areas doing their inspections and code enforcement, will exchange that information with the suppression forces, who are also out in the community doing code enforcement and inspections as a part of their pre-planning and building inspection. And we found that collaboration to be an extremely effective way to protect our firefighters and also serve our citizens and residents in Prince George's County.
When we enter these buildings, especially the existing occupancies, on a tactical pre-incident plan, and we're talking about how do we get a hose line to here, we're talking about the hazards and risks we face in the building, we have to get back and share that with the others. The other companies don't know what we know if we are the only ones that's been in that building.
Building codes vary by jurisdiction. The codes address both fire protection and firefighter safety. However, the focus of building codes is not to protect firefighters once a fire has started in a building. Building code provisions are developed so that occupants can evacuate safely, and the fire service has adequate access to the building to suppress the fire. More than 60% of the roof systems built in the United States are built using lightweight truss systems. Wooden truss systems represent a large fuel load. Fire spreads quickly throughout the wooden trusses. Failure of the trusses under fire is a matter of minutes. Statistics compiled by the Wood Truss Council of America suggest that 4.7% of the total fatalities, 108 of 2,286, during 1980 to 2001, were due to structural collapse. 15 separate incidents investigated by NIOSH identified at least 20 fatalities and 12 injuries that have occurred from 1998 to 2003 during firefighting operations in buildings containing truss systems. The early detection of fires involving trusses is critical for successful fireground operation and firefighter safety. A firefighter should never operate on the roof of a lightweight truss-constructed building. if fire has taken control of the trusses. Likewise, a firefighter should not operate underneath trusses involved in fire, with the possible extreme exception of a known savable life that can be rapidly rescued, as determined by an experienced fireground officer. Steel trusses are also prone to failure under fire conditions, and may fail in less time than a wooden truss under the same conditions. Aggressive fire code enforcement is critical in keeping your community safe. As the fire service evolves, the function oftentimes falls under the jurisdiction of the fire department. Good. It's where it belongs. Let's use that function to help keep us safe.
I've learned as I've gone along that you need that code enforcement person. He needs to be on your staff. He shouldn't be separate from the fire department. He needs to be there to make sure that those buildings are safe, the occupants are safe, and that all of the operating systems, the sprinklers and the alarm systems are functioning.
Here you see a series of trusses that have been cut in half to make additional room for storage. A heads-up firefighter that had been at the location to make a purchase noticed the infraction and immediately notified the fire marshal. A fire occurs in a residential structure every 79 seconds according to the U.S. Fire Administration. To the firefighter, this means that a firefighter is subject to all the risks associated with responding to and working at a structure fire. In the modern built environment, incidents of firefighters being trapped and killed by flashovers have become more and more common. Modern combustibles burn more rapidly and at higher temperatures than before. Energy-efficient buildings are more tightly constructed, and personal protective gear allows firefighters to move deeper into fire buildings without feeling rapid heat increases until it's too late. You cannot survive a flashover. What if there was a device that would prevent fire from spreading from the room of origin? What if this device could prevent a fire from flashing over? What if this device could put water on a fire and control it until your fire department arrived to extinguish the fire? This could be a life-saving device. If fires were kept to the room of origin and not allowed to weaken building structures or roof trusses or flash over torching firefighters, this would be remarkable. This would be an automatic sprinkler system. Why, if we have this fantastic device, aren't we advocating it? Countless firefighter lives can be saved and countless injuries prevented. If not you, then who? You must understand how fire sprinklers operate and promote their installation, because if the fire service isn't making this their mission, no one else will. Let's dispel some myths.
Built-in fire protection is not there to put a fire department out of business. What it is to give it a fighting chance of being able to save the lives and save the property. And I'll give you a real example of that is that even if you have a fire sprinkler system activate, it doesn't mean the fire is going to be 100% controlled. It's sort of like the old analogy of boots on the ground that they use in the military. Boots on the ground put fires out. Sprinkler systems keep them small.
I've gotten to do some interesting things in my life, and one of those was go to the MGM fire, and I was in the building. The fire was they were still taking care of hot spots in the building. And when you looked at the walls where sprinklers exist in the public assembly areas, and you could see the sprinkler pattern on the wall, and the fire never moved past that single sprinkler head, that's effective.
The fire service isn't going away. They can put in all the sprinklers they want. They can put in all the smoke alarms they want. The people, there are only 3 causes of fire in this country, men, women, and children. You're still going to have fires.
Test your home sprinkler system's IQ. Here are some statements about home sprinkler systems. Are they true or false? When one sprinkler goes off, all the sprinklers activate. False. Only the sprinkler over the fire will activate. The sprinkler heads react to temperatures in each room individually. Thus, fire in a bedroom will activate only the sprinkler in that room. Sprinklers often accidentally go off or leak, causing severe water damage to a home. False. Sprinkler systems are under the same pressure as the plumbing system, but are tested at 2 to 3 times higher pressure during installation. Records which have been compiled for well over 50 years prove the likelihood of this occurring is very remote. Water damage from a sprinkler system will be more extensive than fire damage. False. Tests conducted by a Los Angeles fire department and the U.S. Fire Administration showed the damage caused by water in a sprinklered fire is substantially less than damage caused by fire department hose streams in an identical unsprinklered fire. Home sprinkler systems are expensive. False. With the development of quick-response sprinkler systems, which can be supplied by a home's domestic water supply, a 2,000-square-foot home under construction can be protected today by a system costing as little as $1,500 to $2,000. Residential sprinklers don't save lives. False. The evidence on this point is overwhelming. There has not been a single residential fire fatality in a residence with a sprinkler system in either Napa, California or Cobb County, Georgia, since the inception of those programs. While sprinklers are an example of active fire protection, flame retardants are considered passive fire protection. Simply put, a passive approach is one that requires no mechanical device or system to actively function to limit or prevent the fire. This mattress flammability comparison illustrates how much more quickly a common mattress fire develops opposed to a similar mattress treated with flame retardants. Fire retardants increase ignition temperature, potentially preventing a fire from starting. Reduce the rate of fire spread and the rate of burning. The smaller the fire growth, the lesser possibility of flashover and dire consequences to firefighters. As a firefighter, you can play an essential role in educating regulators, legislators, and the public about fire safety, both active and passive protection strategies.
There are three major components of what a fire department does in a community. One is they deal with a built environment and try to make that community as safe a place as it can be for people to live in, play in, work in. In other words, as safe as you can make it, and that includes built-in protection, built-in fire protection into structures. The other piece of it deals with the behavior of the people in that community. In other words, the human behavior aspects of safety. And we do that through public education programs. So the built environment through codes, public education deals with the human behavior, and those are very long-term aspects of protecting a community. Sometimes it takes years, and you never end in the effort to do those two things. And then the third is this issue of emergency response, which is a more immediate remedy to issues in the community. In other words, we're measured there by seconds and minutes, not by progress in years. And I think that as a fire department, if we ignore any aspect of that once again we're developing situations where our firefighters end up more at risk. I wish that we would take a harder look at new construction and sprinkler systems. It's almost disheartening at times that we see all this new construction around the United States where 80% of the people that die in fires die in their homes, and most of the new homes are not being equipped with fire sprinklers. And those are building buildings that if there's a fire in them later, we're going to put firefighters probably on the inside of those buildings. So getting that technology more instilled in our communities, doing a better job of public education, and not prioritizing those as if the lives saved in fire prevention and the lives saved in public education aren't as important as the lives saved in emergency response, because that's a bunch of crap. The fact is that all of those lives are important. They're all critical, and they all got saved.
The firefighters across America need to understand that fire prevention is the core service of our traditional vision and mission objectives. Fire prevention is life-saving and it's cost-effective. I sum it up by simply saying that it boils down to three words, and that is prevention before response.
The folks that are in the fire business today that don't grasp the idea that fire prevention or fire suppression systems that we're putting into buildings today, if they don't understand that that's the way we're going to save lives, they really don't belong in the fire prevention business.
It's exciting to look at the future of the American Fire Service. I do think with an increased fire protection awareness and the transitions in society, that the fire service is going to live up to the challenge. I think we're going to embrace partnership. We're going to increase code enforcement. We're going to increase the number of buildings protected with fire sprinklers. In the fire department's role, the heroism of the American Fire Service is truly going to come from our service to the community.